Hi there guys, so this is kind of the Road to Tokyo Vlog 2 plus review, summary of the Autumn Internationals, and also looking at kind of the question, the statement I put out there is the rise of the North. Have we seen a bit of a shift in the power balance of international rugby? So, you know, there is no north-south divide now, basically. So looking at the world rankings, we've got New Zealand and Ireland up there at the top. Argue who's the best at the moment. Fantastic comments last week, by the way, really brilliant. And I love how everyone's commenting that it's a nice safe space to comment in and enjoy their rugby chat, because that's exactly where it is. You won't get any abuse there. Great place to go and comment, so do. But you've got New Zealand and Ireland at the top, then Wales, then England, and then you've got South Africa and Australia, and then Scotland. So it's all mixed up. You know, back when I was younger, it always used to be the North and the South were always a lot better. The North occasionally would get the odd win, and then you had the odd period where, you know, England in 2003, they were the dominant side, but then it was still the South and then the rest of the North. And now it's all mixed up. It's fantastic. But of course, I think New Zealand and Ireland still out there in front, but then you've got Wales now bridging the gap to the rest. So it's a really, really interesting mix. Now we'll talk about each of the sides, England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and we'll talk briefly about the games, but I just kind of want to talk overview of where everyone's at building up to the World Cup. Now, just before I go on, I am going to go on the scrounge a little bit here. My backgrounds are a bit plain on my videos. Either I'm here or I'm in the boxing gym or wherever I am. So I've got my email on the screen there in the description on the About section of the YouTube channel, rugbyanalyst@mail.com. If anyone was kind enough to donate an international shirt, I mean ideally of England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales, but anything is fantastic. I'll decorate my background and make things a little bit more interesting back there. That would be awesome. It is a bit of a scrounge, but hey, you know, there's some nice people out there. It would be great. I'll read you out a shout out, whatever you want to say. Absolutely, that would be brilliant. I'll mention it again at the end. And the other thing is, we've slipped past the 3,000 subscriber mark a bit without me noticing, and we did a 2,000 Q&A last time, so we're going to do the same thing because that was awesome last time. We're going to do a 3,000 subscriber Q&A. So if you've got a question, I'll read it out and then I'll answer it in a standalone video. I think I managed to get through all of them last time, but just put a big Q next to if it's going to be a question you want used in that section. So big Q and then the question about anything building up to the World Cup, about a player, about a team, about a match, about an issue in rugby, whatever. Okay, so please do that. So email in if you've got any international shirts you might want to donate, and also put a big Q on your comment section if you want a question in the 3K Q&A. Anyway, enough of that. Back to the games. So we had Wales versus South Africa. Wales coming out comfortable winners on the scoreboard, and in the first half they looked every inch the world number 3, which is brilliant. I loved it. It was the perfect mix of physicality, skill, offloading, and it's just such a great mix for Wales. You know, I think just the throwing the ball about everywhere style doesn't really work particularly in world rugby. You need that physicality just because defences are so good these days. So when Wales changed from their Warren ball, whatever you want to call it, style, I like this new style. It's a great mix, and we saw it in the first half. They roared into a lead looking great. Then South Africa came back, okay, and they looked like they might start to pull it back, but then Wales closed it out, tightened up. Dan Biggar came on and did his case, a really big case there for closing out games. Maybe he doesn't quite fit the type of 10 Warren Gatland wants to play, that exciting game that we saw in the first half, but for someone to hold their nerve and close out a game, maybe he's their finisher, the guy on the bench to come and do that. Could really be the way that he gets in that World Cup 23. And we saw some big performances. Ellis Jenkins was brilliant. Oh, so terrible that he got injured at the end there. He was looking really like he could push his way into the starting team, or at least the 23 for the Six Nations. Beard, a big lump, good player, very useful to have as an option in the second row if they want to increase the size of their pack. Liam Williams looked good, North's back to his best. It's all looking good. And their target now has to be winning that World Cup. Okay, they're not a dark horse. I did say a few months ago, put your money on Wales as a dark horse. Could well be in the World Cup reckoning. And now I think their odds will have shortened somewhat, so hopefully you put your money back then. Not that I advocate betting in any way, shape or form, but their odds will have shortened now quite a lot. South Africa, yeah, they're a bit of an adrenaline team, and I think you could see it in times when they got that hit of adrenaline, they started playing well, but at times they looked flat again, and all the Southern Hemisphere teams have looked a little flat at times in this tour. It's not an excuse, but it is a reason why we may have seen that a bit, and come the World Cup, I think there will be a little bit of a different kettle of fish. But Pollard's key for them. I like their 9, the new 9, who looks a bit of a Faf de Klerk clone, who can keep that quick game going, and they'll be better coming back for the World Cup, but they were well beaten by Wales. And then we'll come on to England versus Australia. England got a good win there, the best win of the series, I believe. And they looked dominant. They looked the best team throughout. They look really direct. I mean, you can tell Eddie Jones has tried to evolve England at the beginning of the year into a fast-paced team, offloading, unpredictable attack, a more spread-out pod system with the forwards. It's crashed and burned, and to be fair to him, he's realised my players aren't good enough to play this way. They don't do it week in, week out in the Premiership, so let's just play really English. Very direct, good kicking game, very physical, and then exploit the chances that brings. And that's what they did. In the first half, I thought they were by far the best team, but then when they got into the Australian half, they kicked the ball away a lot of times, really weird, when they didn't have to. They could have just kept going through the phases, and then when they did that in the second half, they ran away with it. Farrell, very lucky not to be yellow carded, definitely was a penalty. No idea why that wasn't picked up again. I'll take the luck, but if he keeps doing it, it could end up England in deep water. But you know, I'm sure you guys will have your opinions on that. But then, yeah, in the second half, they were by far the best team, closed it out easily. Australia looked tired. You know, they had their problems. They had played banned for curfew breaches. Pocock couldn't play. You know, they weren't playing well all year anyway, so it was just an uphill struggle, and they were nowhere near good enough. The Tamua 10, Foley 12 thing was really weird. It worked a couple of times, but no international team's going to look at that and be scared, especially when, you know, defensively looks, you know, really poor. Yeah, but you know, Sinclair stepped up. You know, they dominated the scrum. Australia's scrum was poor, so you don't read too much into it, but it's a real motivation, a real uplifting factor for England to really dominate that scrum. So Singleton looked good. We had Tuolangi coming on, making an impact, and Joe Cokanasiga doing what he does best and busting tackles, scoring tries. He could be here to stay. You know, he gives that mix of power that England have been lacking in their backline for so long. Can we rely on Tuolangi being around and fit? Probably not. Hopefully so, but Cokanasiga we maybe could. Then you add in the Villapolars, they've got a chance. Going on to Scotland, Argentina, what a good win. What a good win. This is what Scotland needed. Now, they didn't play great, but they need to win when they're not playing great, and that's what they did. So that was perfect, actually. That's exactly what we needed. Sanchez missed a load of kicks, which helps, but they still ground out the win. Laidlaw was dead-eye, keeps it all together, and won in the wet, which is another really good factor for Scotland. The Hastings 10 thing, Russell 12, it was cool, but, you know, not really for those conditions, I don't think. But as a change-up, maybe. You know, if they really want to move the ball around, that's quite a cool change-up. And Hastings is everything that Gregor Townsend would want from a 10, and everything he'd want from a backup to Russell. They, you know, they're very similar players, actually. They both love the style that Townsend wants to play. He's very lucky he's got those two, so, you know, that's a real big plus. And he got Hogg at the back, of course. You know, and it's, you know, it's got a chance of winning big games. Can it win enough big games in a row is still the question, but this was you know, another marker on the way to doing that. So well done them. Then we had Ireland absolutely smash the USA. You know, it was Ireland's second team, but they all slot into that system so well. The USA are strong, tough, committed, well conditioned, but you know, the rugby smarts from Ireland was miles better than USA, and they smashed them, to be honest. Conway looks like he could slot into the first team just perfectly. I loved his support lines, his work off the ball. He looks a class act. You know, maybe not quite as fast or as nippy as some of the others, but he's fast enough, and he's just such a good rugby player. You could start him no problem. And the options in the second row are cool. You know, we saw Tyg Byrne have his fantastic handling. He plays like a back row turnover, so if you want that in your team, you slot him in. You know, Henderson a bit similar, but I'll put Byrne above Henderson. So you just, whatever Smith wants from the team, he can chop and change his second rows to get it. Brilliant options. And then you had the big boys in the back row, Murphy and Ruddock, they're units. So if you wanted to beef up the back row for some reason, or you had injuries, you know, you could go super physical with those guys. And then you had all the 9s and 10s having games, Carberry switching to 15, he's just a fantastic player. Just love the way he plays, aesthetically looks great. So, you know, that was all great for Ireland. Good finish to the series. Smith's future, well, if he gets offered the All Blacks job, I just can't see him not going. Can't see him not going. It'd be stupid for him not to go. What a chance to get his hands on the All Blacks, all those resources they have, all the players they have, the setup. You know, he's from New Zealand, he's a Kiwi, his family are from there. There's no way I can see him staying. As much as he loves Ireland, there's no way I can see him staying if he gets offered that job. If it's anything but that job, or a maybe on that job, then yeah, sure, stay. Anyway, let's quickly finish by looking at the kind of the overall here. So we had Wales and Ireland both winning all of their games, okay, which is fantastic. Then England winning 3 out of 4, the one they lost to New Zealand by 1 point, so they were very close. Then Scotland lost to Wales, which doesn't really count as a north-south clash, and they lose to South Africa narrowly, beat Argentina, beat Fiji, so they had a pretty decent start series as well. Fiji actually beating France, which shows you what they can do when they get time together. So you know that the way that Scotland smashed Fiji wasn't insignificant. So all of those 4 nations had a great or very good autumn international, especially Wales and Ireland. And it very much is the rise of the North. The Southern Hemisphere teams will be very worried about our teams, especially South Africa and Australia. You know, they've lost their shine. Our teams playing them now will fancy it very much. Of course, Australia and South Africa can beat all of us as well, but it's just not that psychology that it used to be, that you have to, you know, have this one-off win to beat them. Not the case at all. Anyway, and you can see in the rankings, the world rankings, it's all mixed up. It's going to be a fantastic 6 nations. Every year they say it's the closest 6 nations ever. It's not so much the closest 6 nations, it's the fact that Ireland, Wales and England especially are looking incredibly strong. So I'd say it's the strongest ever, especially when you compare it to the world rankings. So that's where I'd leave it, and if you would be kind enough to donate any international shirts, then rugbyanalyst at mail.com would be awesome. Get in contact, and if you've got any questions for my upcoming 3K Q&A, put a big Q, pop the question, and we'll try and answer it in then. Anyway, it's been a great autumn international series, and until next time, we will see you then.